episode 5 of the Live Motocross podcast. I'm Sophie McGinn, and joining me again is my co-host Darren Bartholomew. Are you there?
Yes, sunny Shropshire, here we go. Co-host now as well, so we've got up the scale. So yeah, really looking forward to this one, Sophie. I'll let you introduce because looking forward to this one.
I'll tell you what, why don't you do the honours this week?
I will then. So obviously, just like you guys to introduce, he's a live wire. He can talk a bit, so I think this is going to be a good one as well. And that's no disrespect to the lad. Just like to welcome Bill Base Honda's Steve Clarke then to the podcast. Welcome, mate.
How you doing? Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, all good, ready to get this underway.
Good stuff,
Hopefully
mate.
I don't talk too much for you.
No, honestly, don't apologise for that. That's what it's all about, mate. We'll put you on the spot. We'll get you going. Don't worry about that, mate. Don't apologise for talking too much. That's the nature of the beast. So that'll be ace.
We have to shut you up normally, don't we?
Yeah, to be fair, mate, I normally get told to shut up, so it's quite refreshing, to be fair. So.
Yeah, I was going to say there's between the three of us, it's going to be like a 2.5 hour long podcast, I reckon.
I could well be, mate. It's been done before, believe you me. It's surprising. So let's hope so. Let's get some good stuff in there as well. So don't be coy about it all, mate, as well. You say how it goes. I know we'll get that from you, so that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say that's all I know, really.
So, I think we'll jump straight into the first topic then, I think, Darren. We want to change it up a little bit this week because we've been doing a lot on previous careers, that sort of stuff. But I wanted to hear from you sort of what you've got going on for 2020, if we actually get a 2020 at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, my plans stay pretty much the same as they did before the season all got paused. I'm going to be doing the British Championship and hopefully the MX Nationals, if that gets some dates as well, so we can race there. But at the moment, it's just sort of keep your fitness up and, keep sharp on the things that you can. Obviously, we can't do any practicing and stuff like that, but just trying to maintain where I was at before it all stopped and get ready to go and win some races when it all kicks back off again.
That's it. So what have you been doing sort of when you've been at home? Like, what sort of new hobbies have you been trying to do?
Well, new hobbies. Not much, to be fair. It's the same thing. Just been doing some mountain biking, just some bodyweight gym stuff that I can do at home. And I bought a new Concept 2 rower, so I've been smashing that out in the living room, watching Netflix. But other than that, yeah, just pretty much just waiting, chomping at the bit to do some laps on a motocross bike. That's all I can think about. And, the sooner this racing gets underway, the better, I think, for everybody, not just myself. But I'm a racer. I do my laps for my training more so than my gym, but it's been good. Topping up on everything that I've been missing in the past, and like I said, just getting ready for when it all kicks back off. If it kicks back off, I don't know anything else more than anybody else at the minute. I'm just in the waiting game as well, but it's looking towards the end of the year. We might get some races in, I think.
Yeah, let's be mindful of that, mate, and let's hopeful for that as well. So I just want to say, just as a pro rider and stuff like that, mate, what is your day-to-day 9 to 5 then at the moment for Stephen Clarke, both, before what was happening before COVID-19 and now, as opposed to what you're doing now? You've just elaborated a little bit fitness-wise. You're probably on point at the moment. But what's a general 9 to 5 day for Stephen Clarke?
9 to 5. Well, to be honest, at the moment, because everything's all been shut down, my dad's business, a lot of the workers don't want to come in. Obviously, they've been furloughed, so they'd rather sit at home and not do anything and get their 80% than have to go to work a bit. So I've actually been and fitted a couple of garage door shutters for my dad, just on the side, some emergency stuff. I know you're not supposed to go and do any like normal work, so it's all been just few emergency things I think I've done 2 or 3 doors in the last couple of weeks. Before that, it was just a lot of sitting around, honestly, just watching Netflix and chilling, really. And then, obviously, I do my gym. I do my cycle for like an hour and a half, and, I do some bodyweight stuff. But again, that only fills up 2 hours of your day, and then you've got to try and figure out the rest of your day. I've got a 5-acre field just behind my house. We've got some sheep in, but me and my dad built like a mini golf course, so we've been like chipping balls back and forth, trying not to hit the sheep, and doing, just some odds and ends around the property. I mean, we've got a couple of acres around the house, and the sit-on lawnmower's broke. So guess who had to push mower the whole thing? That was me. It took me it took me literally 4.5 hours of push mowing, man. I was dead. Granted, I didn't do no gym that day.
No. Have you
But
not
yeah,
seen
that's
that on
pretty
that
much it.
Instagram, mate, where somebody's put a mountain bike with like the mower attachment to the front wheel?
I
Have
did
you
see
seen that
that,
anywhere?
I did,
That'd be
yeah.
so much fun,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
You could
so
do that and get the training.
yeah, no, my luck, I'd end up just making a track out of the grass though, then I'd just be all down to the dirt in some certain bits.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that then. Nothing wrong with all that at all, mate. So
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much just trying to keep myself busy, man. I'm a very active person, so just sitting around doing nothing's, it kills me. So literally
yeah.
I've just been picking up whatever I can, bits and pieces here and there. Me and Dad have painted one of the sheds for my sister, and just general stuff really, pretty much what everyone's probably been up to, just trying to tie up the loose ends around the house and that get put off when we go practicing every day, and Dad's at work, so yeah, house is looking pretty schmick.
Now then, being obviously in the Bill Base Honda MX2 squad this year, mate. You've always been quite, and I mean this totally respectably. You've always been a stocky lad, haven't you? A stocky rider. Have you had to kind of manage your weight that way wise, or do you not worry about it? What, or you just smash yourself training wise? How do you have to keep a close check on it or anything like that? Or
I probably should. I'm I'm a bit bigger than I'd probably should be, to be on the MX2 class. But I ride a lot with my talent and my technique and everything.
yeah,
And honestly, the bike I've got this year with Ryan Thorpe is unbelievable. We did a lot of testing in the pre-season, and he's made some leaps and bounds on the old engines on the old Hondas. Obviously this year's it's a little bit different engine, so it's opened it up a lot more for him. So it took a bit of the pressure off, because you're right. In the past I've had to slim down in the off season sort of thing, but I mean I'm actually pretty much at the lightweight where I'm normally am coming into racing. It went up a little bit. I'll tell you that when COVID-19 happened, I just sat around and ate loads of chocolate. But knowing that the season's kicking off, or hoping that the season's kicking off in another month or two or whatever it's going to be, I figured I'd just drop it back down where I'm at, and yeah, just send it really. I know that my fitness is going to be there at the races. My bike's there, and as long as I'm not fat, I'll be all right.
Are we all
you.
there? Is it cut
Yeah, I was going
out?
to say.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Yeah,
Wait, I was
That's all
just
it's
right.
waiting
alright.
You
wait for
went
the
too
next
quiet then,
question.
so that was all.
It's alright. I thought
I was
it had
waiting
cut
for you to
out
talk
then.
about.
Yeah.
No, I was waiting for you to talk about my receding hairline as well as my overweightness there.
Oh, that's the
Is that the
mate.
next question?
That's question 10, mate. Hang on a minute. You're jumping the gun there a bit.
So obviously we touched on the Honda team a minute there with Ryan Thorpe. What's that been like for you? Because obviously last year you've had a mix between a Pico and all sorts of different stuff. So what's it been like jumping onto the Hondas?
Honestly, it has been so refreshing. The guys literally at the team with Dave, Ryan, Willie, everybody involved, they just literally hand you everything on a silver platter. I mean, I've got parts that I need for practicing. My race bike is like prepped, ready to go, and all I've literally got to do is show up and race. And anytime there's any major problems with the practice bike, I can just drop it back off to them, and they just fix it right up. So it has taken a massive weight off my shoulders. Whereas in the past, it's whenever I've been racing the British, I did the Apico Husqvarna thing, and again that was me and Stu and my dad at first, with the big support from a Pico, but again,
Hmm.
I was helping load bikes up, I was setting awnings up, I was, dropping bits off and picking parts up during the week and trying to keep everything together, in my garage. Whereas now it's like being on a factory team. The guys, they hand you everything, like I said, on a silver plate, and it just makes our job a lot easier come race day. When I haven't got to set awnings up and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I mean, I haven't got enough. I can't praise it enough, man. It's been wicked. Obviously we all know Dave's a legend back in his racing career, but again, since he's stopped racing, he's had a very successful team throughout the years. Even when I was a kid, I remember watching Mike Brown ride the Cat Honda under Dave's awning, and now to be part of it it's pretty special. My dad's a big Dave Thorpe fan when he used to watch him race back in the day, and I've had Ryan as a mechanic my first year on 250s back in 2006. I actually put a throwback picture up on Instagram today of the site of that
Yeah,
bike. So
Mhm.
it
I
has
saw
been a
that
bit of
Hawkston
a
this morning, mate, wasn't it?
yeah, Hawkstone 2006 British Championship. So many moons ago, but it's been good. I've stayed, in close contact with Ryan and Dave and everything over the years, and it all just sort of worked out this year that they were missing an MX2 rider, and I was looking for a deal, and I think my talent and my everything that I've got and all the experience that Dave and Ryan and everybody's got, we're on for some winning form this year.
Excellent to hear, mate. We like the positivity. That's great. So, just going on off the back of that, then, for 220, then, who do you see your rivals are? Who's your biggest threat, then, in your opinion, with regards to the British Championship this year?
My biggest threat is going to be myself. If I know damn well that if I come to the race with my race head on and I give it my everything every weekend, I'm going to be at the front, either top three, top two. You know what I mean? I'm going to be battling for wins every round. My biggest competition, I would say, is going to be like Conrad and Basvassen. I'm sure, to be honest, I haven't really looked at the race order. I just sort of show up and let my riding do the talk. But I know there's going to be some guys on 252 strokes, Brad Anderson, Jamie Law, Matt Burrows. There's going to Todd Kellett, I think, is racing a 252 stroke as well. So it is going to be a bit of a mix up, and it's all just sort of see how you get on at round one, really. But it's I'd say me and Conrad are going to be duking it out for the first overall by the end of the championship. If I had to pick one person, but I'm a lot bigger than he is, as you've already touched base on. So yeah, I
And
don't know. I think
elbows
it'd be
come
cool.
sharp, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they don't hurt when you got a bit of podge on your belly, apparently. But no, I'm
Or
pretty good friends with Conrad. We got a bit of a banter going on online over the last few months, just before the season. I like to tease him a little bit, but it's all good. I've known him for years, and we are friends, and we still do talk. I wished him happy birthday the other day. He's just turned 21, so that's pretty cool for him. Although he's stuck inside, but yeah, like I said, I think it's gonna be wicked. We'll have some good races, and I know we'll keep it clean. And we'll probably come off smiling and laughing with each other anyway.
excellent. So your team boss, mate. Obviously, we did the podcast with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was kind of saying to us when you were over in Spain testing earlier on in the year and stuff that he kind of leaves the setup and all that kind of process down to you. Can you just explain a bit more to that? Is that because of the American thing, or how? Because he was quite happy to just leave it for you to set your own motorcycle up. So
Yeah, that's mainly suspension wise.
yeah,
I've done a lot of testing with Factory Connection in USA over the years, and especially since I've been on Honda since 2018. I spent some like one-on-one time testing all different setups with them, and found something that was magical to me. It felt amazing. I've won GPs in the EMX class on it. I've won British Championship races on it. And it was just I had it sat in my shed still from 2018. So I gave it to Ryan. They've bolted it straight into my bike, and it's pretty much bang on straight away. We've dropped a bit of oil in the forks just to make them a little bit softer. But yeah, like I said, like you said, Dave pretty much left it up to me, and because Dave knows that a happy rider is a fast rider, so there's no point him trying to force me into trying different settings when I'm already happy, and I know. And he saw in Spain, he came out for a couple of weeks, and we did some testing. My lap times weren't too far off Tommy and Jake's on their 450.
no
So I
way.
think he was happy. Yeah, yeah. Some of the days Tommy was on another level, Jake was on another level, but for the most part, I was only, second and a half off, and I think that just is to do with the fact that, like you said, I was happy with my setup, ready to go, whereas they were both still testing different shocks and different forks, and they weren't 100% sure on it. So like you said, Dave leaving me to it was it's benefited me a lot because I haven't had to try and get used to something else. I've literally just jumped on the bike, and it feels, you know what I mean, when you jump on a bike and
Yeah,
it
it feels like
feels
your
like
bike
your own
already.
bike. Yeah, it is, and we had to just do a few little mods to the engine, as opposed to the other riders on the MX2 from the previous couple of years. I like my power in a little bit of a different spot. But Ryan, like I said, Ryan hit that straight on the head. I think it was like the second engine we tried was just perfect for me. So
I was
yeah, it
just
made
about to
my
say, because Ryan, that is where his strength is. The electrics and mapping and the bike engine setup is where he's so in tune with it all, isn't he? He can get that bike dialed in. You've just got to tell him, and he knows where to put it.
Yeah, literally, he's a genius with these Honda engines. I think if anybody's riding a Honda in England this year and you haven't got an engine done by Ryan, you're not to be mean, but you're a bit of a fool because he knows his stuff and it's open to anyone, man. It's not like he just does it for the team. He's got Banks Brown and Luke Burton on his engines. There's Koulas and Thornhill are going to be on there as well. Pocock, I think's also got one. So majority of that MX1 British Championship race is going to be in the top 10. It's going to be on the build base Honda engine. So I think that's pretty special, and I think the proof's in the pudding. If all those top runners are using Ryan's engine, that alone says it for itself, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Well, exactly, definitely, mate. This is a bit of well, I don't know if it's a hard question, but it's what I thought. I'm going to say it to you because I know you'll give me a straight answer. But because you were so close to winning the British Championship, mate, and everybody felt for you, especially to go on bike trouble and stuff like that. But I just wanted to put it, do you think you're owed a British Championship title now? Because in my opinion, I think you do. And does that make you more determined now, do you think?
I don't know. I was pretty determined back then. I fought tooth and nail through the whole season. There was a lot of controversy. My bike blew up the first race of the year, 2016, and it just kind of put me back from the beginning. And then I obviously had my first overall win. That was at Canada Heights. So the 1-1 was amazing. It was a good season, and then to get to the last round and have a bike problem that was out of our control. Stu at the time had put all new electrics on the bike and everything was mint and it worked brilliant in qualifying. And then lap one of the first race, the condenser under the seat's a little circle tube. It just condenses the power basically from electric to
Hmm.
power, I believe.
Yep.
It just went out. It wasn't it wasn't like he'd left something loose or it wasn't that I'd thrown it away. So to me, it didn't really hurt me that much at the time. Or even now, to be fair, it is what it is. I put in everything I'd got. Stu put in everything he'd got, and we gifted Sterry a British Championship. But it's just one of those things. Part of racing. We all know the consequences. It could have happened to him, and I could have won it that way. And I think he would have rather have liked to have got it beating me in the racing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
we went in,
I think
we
any
went into
true racer would, wouldn't they?
the yeah, I think so. But I wouldn't say I'm owed one. I know that after that championship season, I know that if I put in the work and I go to each race with the confidence knowing that I can win, I'm going to be there or
Hmm.
thereabouts at the end of the championship, with or without bad races. So yeah, I definitely want one. I know that my determination has been higher than it ever has. I was doing it off my own back before with my dad out of a Sprinter van, and to have a big team behind me now like Dave, and I'm not saying Dave's putting any pressure on me, but I know he's expecting to win. Ryan's expecting to win, and they put in all of their effort. So as long as I complete the trifecta and put in my effort and get there, I reckon we're in a good chance at winning it.
Wow, that was a good word as well. Trifecta. I'm gonna use that one in. I'm gonna use that one, mate, in future. I love that. We might have to own that. That's
Yeah,
So
awesome.
copyright it.
while we're on the subject of the British as well, I'm going to throw this in because we seem to be having a lot of controversy at the moment with the British and how it should be ran and changes and all this sort of mad stuff. What do you feel about it? Do you think it needs a bit of a shake up?
It depends in what way. What like with tracks or with the racing or the
Okay,
qualifying and everything. What do you mean? Go on,
i-
give
Yeah.
me a
if we,
bit more of
if
a.
we if we had a perfect Stephen Clarke British Championship format, then what would it be with regards to, race duration, what guys it might be under? What would be the perfect package for you?
I mean, I think they pretty much hit the nail on the head with the motos and the qualifying and everything. I think the qualifying practice could do with maybe being a little bit longer. After you've done your 10 or 15 minutes free practice, you've only got 15 minutes time practice.
Hmm.
I think it should be at least 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. The GPs run, they're like 45 minutes qualifying practice, I believe, or they used to be anyway. And I just think it gives you a
Hmm.
bit more chance to get a good time in if you haven't had the best beginning. If you pull into the pits twice at the beginning of time practice, you only get like one chance to do a lap at the end of it. Whereas if you had the 30 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes of free practice, you've got a bit more time to get a time in. It will also roughen the track up a little bit. So normally the first motos of the British are a little bit smooth for my liking. I like
Hmm.
rough tracks. So I think if they just gave us a bit more qualifying and a bit more chance to rough the track up and get a few more lines in, I think that would be a big benefit. And a bit more of a variation on the tracks. I mean, I don't dislike Hawkstone or any of the tracks that are in the circuit. Don't get me wrong; they're all brilliant tracks. But I know there's a lot more tracks in England that could have a British Championship on them. And I think
Yeah.
like throwing it into Farley Castle, I think that is such a brilliant track, and with a little bit of work, would be one of the best British Championship tracks we've got. Um,
Hmm.
I think they need to be a little. I don't know how. I honestly don't know the ins and outs of what it takes to run the championship. So my opinion might be absolute nonsense, but I think they should try and run them in a bit of different of an order. Maybe try and put like a sand meeting, a hard pack meeting, a clay meeting, a dirt meeting, and then so on, as opposed to two sand
Yeah.
meetings and then. Do you know what I mean? Have like a month and a half off, and then just you jump straight into Fox Hills. I think
Hmm.
if you ran it, you know what I mean. That would be something I would try and look at, try and make it sit a bit better, if you know what I mean. The track. So, like I said, have a sand
Yeah,
meeting, have a clay meeting, have a hard pack meeting. Definitely throw some more hard pack in there. That's my forte. So, if we could have 7 days
he's,
at Fox
he's a
Hills,
blue
that'd be
groove
brilliant.
boy.
Yeah, yeah. Or even try and get Matterley Basin on the cards. I think I heard rumours that that was in talks for this year, but it fell through for whatever reason. I don't know. But I mean,
Hmm.
if they're not going to use it as a GP anymore, why not use it as a British Championship? You'd have the crowd would turn up in tenfold. You know what I mean? And the riders would all be over the moon. I think you'd get a lot more entries if there was a race meeting at at Matley Basin, because a lot of the people that race British Championships but obviously don't do a GP haven't ever had the chance to race it. So I think it would just be a great event to have.
Yeah, definitely. I know when we spoke to Sean Simpson we had on a couple of weeks ago, he we were chatting to him about the same sort of thing, and he mentioned about um it wouldn't be the sort of place to have the youths riding together.
Yeah.
Um, I think in a way it kind of does need to happen, but I don't know. It's kind of like 50-50 at the moment. Obviously, with what happened with Little Silver a few weeks ago with the weather and all that sort of stuff. Do you think that would cause any dramas with having the youth there or not?
At Matley Basin or at the British
Is it
Championship
is
in
in
general?
general in British Air?
No, if it was the other way around, like America do it at quite a few of their outdoor races. They'll race Saturday is the pro race, then Sunday is the amateur day, which makes a lot
Yeah.
more sense because if there is a track like, let's say, Matley Basin was on the cards, huge jumps, big off cameras, or like a lot of big obstacles there. If we were to race it Saturday,
Hmm.
and they had on this, or on say, yeah, Saturday we would race. Then on the Sunday, say they needed to tame down a couple of the takeoffs for the youth riders, not a problem, and then it can all be fixed after the meeting's over. So I think it's great to have the kids at our races. It was one of the cool things about America when I was racing the outdoors and having that amateur day on the Monday. There's a lot of the families come, Friday, stay and watch the pros Saturday. They'll stay and then race on Sunday. So they kind of get to see what we're up to before they're racing. They can see where we're riding on the
Hmm.
track. They can see the jumps we're doing, the sections and all that kind of thing. But as well as, it brings them to the paddock. There'll be a lot more people in the pits on a pro race on a Saturday if the Sunday race was the amateur day. Whereas if it was the other way around and we're racing in between amateurs, I don't really like that idea because 65 riders make really tight ruts.
Yeah.
And if they're going out in between our qualifying and our race, when we come out for the first race, there's going to be some tight ruts on the track, and the bumps are obviously all in different spots. So it's give and take. I think it's great having them there, but if we could swap the order around and have pros Saturday only, kids on Sunday, then you're on to a winner.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're right with that one because, like, when I've been over to America and watched the racing and stuff, it seems to be a bit more family orientated, like you say. So you've got all the families coming on the
Yeah.
Fridays, blah blah blah. But with your experience from sort of being out there and racing and stuff, do you think that there's a lot that we can take from America and sort of implement in the UK?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's things in the UK that America could learn from. There's
Hmm.
nowhere's perfect. None of the racing's perfect, but they just seem to have it a bit more dialed in on some different areas. So I definitely think if the ACU was to open their eyes a little bit and be willing to change some things like that, just
Hmm.
swap it round. And even a few years ago when I was racing 450s out there, whenever the racing is live on television, 450s race first. Now, don't think that makes any difference to the riders. We all ride the track. We all know, tracks are going to be rougher and on certain days. So why not throw the 450s out first? Let them have a smooth first moto and put the 250s at the end and the roughest track we've got. There's no rule that says the 250s have to go before the 450s. So why
Hmm.
not do, if there's 6 rounds, do three 250s first, three 450s first, and switch it up. That's again
Yeah.
just a minor change. Doesn't change the timing, it doesn't change the calendar, it doesn't change anything, but it gets a completely different track that last moto compared to the first moto on the track. So if we
Hmm.
were to swap, I think it'd be brilliant, and that would be a good. That's one minor little detail that would change a lot of things for us all, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a very valid point, as well, that, I mean, me and Soph did the AMCA championships, as we know, the last couple of years. And what's
Yeah,
one of the things they have actually implemented is actually to put a delegation of riders together to put their view as well. Because obviously you're the guys that's out on the track, risking your body, and we know how fickle a sport it is. But
Hmm.
just to
yeah,
have some feedback from you guys, and sometimes you don't always see it, when you're on the side or delegation or whatever, but just to have that extra point of view, I think,
yeah.
and the MCA definitely got better through it, I think, just having that delegation.
Of course, like I think that would be brilliant, and I'd be all up for being part of it if we could get that going in the ACU. Sign me up, because there's a lot of things where we'll show up to a race on a Friday and just say one of the turns, say the markers are a little bit too far in, or the posts are too close to where we're going to be leaning in. If the riders, after we've walked the track, could go up to the ACU and 7 out of the 10 of us agree that that post needs to be moved in, it'd take 10 minutes
Hmm.
to go and move the post, But because there's not, like you said, there isn't a thing like that at the moment. We can't. If we go and say our opinion, it just sounds like we're moaning at the ACU, which we're not. They do know how to run the races, and we don't. We're the riders. We know how to ride the races and ride the tracks. But if there was kind of like a little, a time to say 10 minutes after you've all done track walk or something, or
Hmm.
before qualifying, or even after qualifying, if we could just, like you said, just voice our opinion. They don't have to listen to it, because at the end of the day, they'll have the final say on things. But Gareth, I know Gareth's got a million things going on in his mind leading up to the race, during the race, and after the race. So it might be easy for him to overlook something so simple as just a post being 12 inches in the wrong place. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, if we can get that going, I'll sign me up.
And at the end of the day, potentially it could make the racing better. And I don't know anything about running races, and I think ACU, they're switched on when it comes to that. They actually clarify that part of it very, very well. But I
Yeah,
think they just need to be a little bit, like you say, a little bit more approachable with
yeah,
regards to the content and whatever else, especially coming from a rider's
yeah,
perspective as well. And
yeah,
like you say, with regard to the track, that's a very valid point. Like if you're an out and out sand rider and all you're riding is sand tracks, then it's going to be a big benefit to that particular rider. Whereas if you've got, like you say, you've got Fox Hills, you've got Farley. I mean, I don't know if you've been doing it, Steve and Soph, but we've been watching Motorvision quite a lot in the downtime over
Yep.
on YouTube. Amazing, absolutely brilliant. And to see the old tracks just naturally
Yeah.
there, no grooming of the tracks, just natural as it was. I love it. I can't stop watching them at the moment. I think we just sometimes we need to reel it back and just learn from the past, I think.
Yeah.
But
Bit more
unfortunately,
like you
modern
said.
motocross.
No, sorry, go on. Yeah, motocross.
Yeah, it's just modern motocross is going a particular way, and I get it to a certain degree. I mean, if you want to attract sponsors, you want it to be entertaining, you want to be that. But I'm thoroughly entertained by watching the 1995 Fox Hills Motocross Grand Prix. Do you know what I mean? The track was amazing. It's got a bit of everything in it. It was rough, it was blue groove, and I just think it's a good test for the riders as well.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
bit of
And
back in
yeah,
your
going
day,
back to
that, isn't it, Darren?
I knew that was coming.
well, she's having a little dig for you for calling me fat.
I'd never call you fat, mate. I said stocky.
No,
There's a
I
difference.
know. I'm only teasing, mate. Honestly, I don't take
Yeah,
offence to anything. I'm probably one of the most laid back riders in the sport all the way around the world. So, but yeah, just one more about back to the ACU, like you said about if they were just a bit open minded about just changing just simple things like that, just put the 450s first. It'd be cool to see Tommy and Jake go head to head on a fast track as opposed to on a rough track. Do you know what I mean? It would be,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
Simpson. I know if the track's flatter, they're going to be going faster and they're going to be, it's a bit easier. They're on 450s. They don't, it should be the other way around anyway. The lighter 250 should be on the rougher track, I think. But, it is what it is. But yeah, if we can get that committee thing sorted out to where the riders can have an input or at least an opinion, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, maybe we need to start up like you remember MX tracks that everyone used to be on the forum, just blasting the tracks every week. Maybe
yeah.
we need to
Oh
start that up
dear.
again.
Don't sign my name at the bottom of that because that gets brutal. You get a lot of keyboard warriors that have got some very strong opinions towards things, and but I think if there was 10 or 15, 10 or 10 250 riders and 10 450 riders, I think
Mhm.
it'd be brilliant, or even 5 of each. It'd be a good enough point to where
Yeah,
we
I
can
mean,
all talk to each other and come across and
I, I think it definitely works. I mean, we've seen it in MotoGP, even in the road racing, where they have a particular body of riders just walking the track and just making sure everything's as it should be. And I just think there's lessons to be learnt there somewhere as well. But
Mhm.
the trouble is there is a saturation point when it comes to riders in the UK, and everybody's trying to claim the same amount of riders for all their, whether it be MX Nationals or Bridgestone or AMCA or ACU, whatever. But my and this is just my opinion. I think that, no, I know because I think we kind of need to get back to where the top 40 used to be. I mean, at the end of the day, you used to have to qualify for the British Motocross Championship, and it was almost kind of, it wasn't a given by any means. It was hard earned to get into that top 40 at the time.
Mhm.
And I
yeah.
just think we need to, sometimes you just need to go back. And I think, unfortunately, the ACU British Championship at the moment, if you can just turn up and ride, I'm not having to go at the ACU in any way, shape, or form. I've commentated on a few of their events, and to see the 450 lineup with probably only 20 some odd on the line, I just think it's such a shame. We're all fans at the end of the day. We want to see it how it was. And I just think they need to be just a little bit more focused. And I think now, with COVID and everything that's happened now, it's kind of almost a bigger deal now. This may well be the time to try and get
To
something
sort everything
sorted.
out. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm honest,
Um,
I think this COVID-19 is actually going to do our sport a bit of a favour towards the fan side of things because everybody's been locked inside now for a month and just over a month, and by the time we go racing, people are going to be wanting to go out on weekends and they're going to want to go and do things apart from sit at home, and I think it might bring some more fans to our races. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe that's just my
yeah.
wishful thinking, but That's my opinion on there.
I, I think you're right, and Soph will agree. Like the absolute diehards will turn up to the championship anyway. I mean, you've got a certain fan clientele that will turn up to the races anyway because they love it. They're like us, they want to go and they want to be part of it and whatever else. But it's all about getting new people in, and that's obviously when I see photos. I mean, I did the Hawkston International a lot long back, and you go into the commentary tower there, and there's like 50 to 60,000 people lining Hawkston Park. I mean, if we get this
Yeah,
right now,
Mhm.
why not? Why not think that? I mean, it used to happen, but a lot of things have to change, unfortunately, in the meantime to get it like that. But as a collective, I think if we all think about for the good of motocross, now's the time to do it, in my opinion. And if
yeah,
we can get that right, who knows?
That's it.
yeah, definitely. I agree.
If we head on to sort of like chatting about America then, Steve,
Yeah,
and how you sort of got involved out there and ended up racing and stuff, that'd be cool.
yeah. It's quite a cool little story, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to the beginning. I used to be terrible on a motocross bike, absolutely terrible. I did it as a hobby.
I still am, mate.
Yeah. Well, somewhere along the lines, I believe it was in the 2000. We bumped into Adam Chatfield. Became good friends with him and his family. And at the time, it was when he was back and forth from America racing. And he told me, it's actually his dad told my dad that, you know what, hey, we go to America at the end of each year to race in Florida at the Mini O's. We normally do a week before at Colleen Millsap's house with Davey
Mhm.
Millsaps. You guys should come and check it out. So my dad backing me all the way. He always has and he always will. Decided, you know what, let's do it. He wouldn't mind a little holiday in Florida with motocross involved. And if any of you guys know my dad, then you can understand where I'm coming from. But so we went out there. I did a week at Colin's house, training, and I improved so much just in that short week period. And then I raced minios and going to one of their amateur events and seeing how it's all run, and the fact that I didn't have to just ride one class, do three motos. You could ride three, four, five different classes. It was like 85 standard, 85 modified, super mini. I could ride the 125 class on my 85. They don't care. You know what I mean? You can go and race
No
all
way.
these different races, and yeah. I mean, jumping forward a bit, when Blake Wharton was on mini bikes, he rode a stock KTM 85, a modified KTM 85, a super mini, a standard 125 KTM, modified KTM 125 in the schoolboy class. Then he did the 250B on a standard 250, a modified 250B, so that's 7. And then he did the 450 standard and 450 modified. So he did 9 classes, ranging from a standard KTM 85 to a 450 modified KTM. You know what I mean? Which I think is
That's
phenomenal. And
crazy.
That's crazy.
yeah, and it
Like
works all
if
the
you
way
was a
down from
mechanic, you walk.
50s. What's that? Sorry.
Sorry, mate. I said if you were his mechanic, you just walk out, wouldn't you?
Well, I think he was on big bucks. But I mean, it's not just on 85s. It works from PWs. You can ride a PW, you can ride a Cobra 50, and you can ride like a 65, or you could ride a Cobra 50, a Kawasaki 65, and if you're old enough, you can ride 7 to 11 85cc. So you can, do you know what I mean? It varies from either side, which wherever you are, and I think being on an auto, riding a 65 just at some little club meetings or at your national, just to do, you might not qualify, but you get used to riding with the clutch, helps you jump back onto that 50 to go quicker. Vice versa, if you're on a super mini and you're trying to ride a standard 85, it helps with that as well. But yeah, anyway, we went over for a week and did that training, did the race at Florida, and we just sort of fell in love with it. And it was shortly after that my dad sat me down and said, "Look, Stephen, we've seen how much you've improved over the last 12 months, a couple of trips to MTF. Do you want to make this your career, or do you want to carry on going to school and jump in at my work and be part of the business with me? And as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old boy, it was a pretty swift yes, I want to race motocross forever and not have to go to work. And it just sort of snowballed from there, really. We ended up going back for like 2 months the second or third year. And then by the fourth year I'd been going, they'd opened up Millsap's training facility and it was taking full-time members. And I'd go for 2 months pre-season, and then halfway through the season I'd go for another couple of weeks. And then by September I was going for like 3 and 4 months at a time. I carried on racing over here in England, but at the end of 2006, after that year on Honda with Ryan Thorpe, we decided to move over there and try and turn pro over there. So I did 1 more year, or 2 more years, sorry, in the A class, which is called like A Pro Sport. And it was the same era as like Austin Stroop, Nico Izzy, Trey Kennard, Will Hahn.
Mhm.
I mean, I could keep going, but
Some
it
big,
doesn't
big
make sense.
names. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some huge names that were going places. And I thought that if I wanted to make it in this sport, you've got to be where the best people are. You know what I mean? You've got to be riding with them, racing with them. So we moved over at the end of '06. I did the full 2007 season in amateurs. I won Loretta Lynn's. Then my second year, I was in A class again. I was top three with Darren Durham, PJ Larson, some other guys, and then turned pro.
Mhm.
I did. What did I do? I did 2 years of Supercross and motocross straight away. Came home, did a year for Hooper Suzuki. Did a couple of years in Australia for Factory Suzuki. Then back to England for a few years, and then 2013 I did Supercross. Then back to England. It's been mad, back and forth, a lot of flights. I dread to think how many Sky Miles I'd have if I collected them all. Um, but I think it's been, other than the memories and the racing I've had, and you know what I mean, and all the people I've met. It's been so good for my career because I've learned a lot from everywhere I go. You know, I learned a lot about myself in 2011 when I rode for Rob Hooper. I wasn't putting in enough effort training wise.
Mhm.
But I didn't realise that, you know, because I've been so used to being at a training facility where someone tells you what to do, coming home and having to do it all on your own. I just sort of didn't do much. So I learned a lot about myself that year. And then 2016, when I was nearly won the British Championship, I learned a lot about what it actually takes to win. And it doesn't take the big truck and the flashy bikes and everything. It's all about what you put in before the season and how you ride mentally. You know, because you can be the fittest, fastest rider on the track if you're not there mentally. You know, you're going to struggle at the races. And I found that if I'm on top of things with my mental game and my confidence is up there and my bike setup's good, you know, I know that I'm going to be a contender to win a British Championship. You know, whoever I'm against. I know if I went into the 450s for this year, after a couple of months of training on it, I know I'd be up there battling with Tommy, Jake, and Sean. So it's yeah, like I said, I learned a lot about what it takes to win British Championship races in 2016. And I just think, you know, I was a bit sad when this COVID-19 happened because everything had fell into place so nicely for me to try and win my British Championship finally, and then boom,
Mhm.
someone hit a bat, and now we're all stuck inside.
Yeah.
Been yeah, but yeah, back to the America thing. Like I said, it's been great, a great experience for me. You know, I met a lot of nice people and a lot of nice sponsors, and been to some cool tracks and everything all over there. But my favourite part is just what it's given me on a motocross bike. You know, the skill set that it's helped me with. That's my favourite part.
So, as you obviously just spoke of, then you've been all over the planet, mate, with regards to racing motocross, and everybody give their eye tooth to be in that situation that you've been in. So, US, Australia, Germany, all over Europe racing. What's it like racing all of the different series, and how does it differ? Just explain, because not many people get to have the both sides of this, do they? So,
Yeah, the way it's diff. I mean, God, that's a pretty specific one. You know, there's differences in all of the countries. You know, like GPs, the riders tend to be a bit more paced out, you know, like go for the long haul. America is just pretty much the riders are just sprint. As soon as that gate drops, they are going 110%. And they'll either finish the race or they'll crash out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
England. there's a bit of method to the madness. People, there's here and there's some people that will go fast, some people that are trying to pace it out till the end. The racing, Australia, my first year over there, during their 7-round Supercross series, there was one round that was qualifying and a 15-lap main event. One round was qualifying and two 10-lap main events, or three 10-lap main events. One of the rounds was 4 8-lap races where 20 people start the first one. Then the top 15 go to the second moto, the top 10 go to the third moto, and the last moto was only 5 people. I thought that was brilliant. It was like they called it a knockout race, I believe, or knockout schedule or whatever it was. But it was, you know what I mean. They switched it up so much that only 2 of the rounds were the same, and they were 2 15-lap finals. So Australia's not scared to be innovators of their sport, and uh, other than that, my biggest the hardest thing I should say that the hardest thing about switching from season to season and country to country racing is getting used to the schedule. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't,
Yeah.
over the years, like, there's so many times I've shipped a bike home when I was in America and just tried to race one British Championship, or just tried to show up at the German Supercross and race for a team I've never even met the people. You know what I mean? You have to be really prepared if you want to try and win anywhere in this sport, whether it's England, Australia, America, Europe. You need to be fully prepared. You can't just show up and expect to win. There's too many fast people nowadays in your class. So, yeah, to be prepared, that's my biggest key for that.
Awesome. Have you got a preference, mate? Do you favour Supercross over outdoors, or what's your preference? If you had somebody had to sign you for a season, either one, which would you go for?
Definitely Supercross. More so because, like I said, I ride a lot with on my talent and my technique and everything. And on Supercross, you have to be talented and have good technique if you want to try and race it. Not only is it hard work, it's dangerous if you haven't got the right techniques and the right training behind you. You can't just show up at Anaheim 1 and expect to ride it. You just won't get round. You know what I mean? The whoops are huge, the triples are big. All the other riders are doing triple, triple, triple through the rhythm section, and if you're trying to go double, double, triple, double or something, it just doesn't work. And whereas motocross, you can pretty much show up to a motocross track anywhere around the world, and if you're not scared to hang it out, you'll pretty much be all right. So for me, yeah, I'd much rather race Supercross. If I, like you said, if I had to get picked for a season, it would definitely be a Supercross season. Um, I'm not partial to motocross. I love motocross. I like it when it's really rough and you have to be, really techie with your line choice and really smart with the way you race the track. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But yeah, Supercross is definitely my number one.
I don't blame you. So moving on from sort of the America vibes then at the minute. I know obviously we're stuck in a bit of a lockdown, but what is your sort of plans and guidelines for the future?
Um, Honestly, get through 2020. See how I get on. If I my plan before all this COVID-19 started was to win the British Championship in the MX2 this year, and then move up to MX1. Give
Hmm.
myself a few years on trying to win that, really. But now this has all happened. I don't know if we're going to have a championship. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stick with my goals from before and just try and win this
Hmm.
year and just see what happens. Hopefully Dave will still have a deal for me for 2021. I don't know, or if there's another team that's going to come up with an offer. I don't know. In British Championship motocross, it's sort of, you got to just get through a season and hope that everything's good and try and find a deal for the next year. It's hard to come across more than a single year contract these days.
Yeah, defo. Darren, do you want to add anything else in before we go into Q and
Yeah, I
A's?
just wanted to pick up off the back of there for somebody that has had to go full circle like yourself, mate. You've been privateer. You're on an excellent squad now. It must be so difficult for you to race in, knowing that potentially, lots of riders fall lucky and get signed up for 2 or 3 year periods, but it's been really hard for you that way. Wise, you seem to never get a run of deals together, do you? You always have to go out there and sort either your own ride or whatever. And mentally, that must be pretty tough, I should imagine, over the years.
Yeah, me and my dad have sat back that many times and gone, just looked at each other and said, "What have we done wrong? Like, why haven't we got a deal? And how come so and so has got this deal, so and so's got that deal, and we're gonna have to go now buy some sprinters and go racing on our own when they've never even beat you in a race." Do you know what I mean? But I never let it get the best of us. I race motocross because I love racing motocross, and my dad loves going to the races and being part of it. You know, I know it's going to be hard to, to make a load of money doing it when you're doing it how I've been doing it, just sort of bouncing back and forth. And I think a lot of it was to do with going to America and going to Australia and stuff, and just taking these deals on tracks on teams for just for that 1 year deal. I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that, like you said, I was bouncing around from country to country.
Mhm.
Um, but other than that, I don't know. I wish it would have been a little bit different. I wish I'd have had a couple of year deal, or even at least just like a 2 or 3 year deal on a certain team in any country. And at least then I could have had a year to get used to everybody and used to the team and used to the championship I'm racing. And then second year, like if I would have stayed for 2017 after losing it in 2016, the British Championship, I don't think anybody would have came near me because I'd have rode with so much aggression and so much anger. The fact that I just lost. I
Mhm.
think 2017 would have been
Yeah.
a piece of cake. But I had an opportunity to. My dad asked me if I wanted to go and race Supercross again. We'll do it privateer. I had a guy that was going to give me some bikes and take them to and from races, and I said, yeah. And it's so hard to say no to that. When someone offers you to go and race in the AMA Supercross for a season, even if it was just for the Supercross season, um, it's
Yeah.
it's just hard to say no to. Especially after being there and doing it before, it's a lot easier to just jump in than it's not like I was just showing up somewhere new. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, defo.
And I think it's difficult because, I've been there, and just some of the lads that I've been with, sometimes, it can take, 6 months before you get your bike dialed into where you're happy and be in a happy place with it. And like before you know it, you're halfway through your contractual year, and all of a sudden you're still chasing a setup, never mind even getting down to the nitty gritty of racing. So I just think, you do a bit of luck, mate. Is all. That's you haven't had the easiest of careers, shall we say? I mean, you've always had, even when you got a good break with regards to Supercross. I mean, you broke your collarbone, didn't you, just before
Yeah,
going into a real good season for yourself? Just got
yeah.
up off the floor from getting that sorted, and went and broke your thumb straight after. So yeah, I know it's a fickle sport, but I think if anybody is earned some luck and some fate, I think it's you, mate. To be fair.
I appreciate that. But one thing I've always prided myself on is never giving up. Like you said, with that was the 2017 season you were on about there, Supercross. It was right after
Yeah.
I lost the British Championship. I went over to America. I did a couple of months solid training. I was keen. Right before the first round, I was running good lap times at MTF, and everything was looking good. Training with Jordan Smith, who went on to lead the championship for most of that season. I wasn't far behind him, so it was all going well, and then gearbox went out on the face of a jump, spat me over the front, and broke my collarbone really bad. Uh, come back from that a couple of weeks later, I rode maybe 1 or 2 days on the Supercross track and qualified straight away for the final at my first Supercross back. My fitness wasn't there, and I rolled around and got like 21st or something stupid, but I got straight into the final, whole shot the main event, and then just dropped back. And then on the Monday after that, broken thumb. So yeah, like you say, I have had a bit of bad luck, I think, but I always pride myself on never giving up. My dad stuck behind me then, and since as we missed the whole Supercross season, I geared up and got ready for the outdoor season over there, and we did selected rounds of the AMA outdoors in 2017, and I had some pretty awesome results, I think, for doing it out of a van on my own. You know what I mean? With my dad, I was just around the top 10, like Millville. I passed Zach Osborne. There was pro circuit Kawasaki riders I was beating. Faulkner and
Mhm.
people like that. Which you know, uh, maybe I wasn't first or I wasn't top five, but just to even be beating those guys on the factory team was, that was enough for me. I was happy with that, and it just shows that if as long as you don't give up, it will always prevail in the end. So to do with my fate and my good luck. Hopefully, it all comes for this year, so I can check this MX2 British Championship off the list, move up to MX1 and mix it up with Tommy, Jake, Sean, and those guys.
Excellent, mate. It's good to hear that you've got a plan and a process. I don't know about you, Soph. We've met some determined people in our sport, haven't we, over the few years? But
Yep.
never as dogged as Mr. Clarke. I can imagine
No, not at
it's a
all.
really. I got to give you full respect, mate. I love everything that you're saying. So yeah, but I've just got one sneaky one because everybody. We like to throw these little ones in every now and again, don't we, Soph? But
Yep.
where did Scuba Steve come from, mate? If anybody doesn't know the story behind that one,
God.
yeah.
Well, the first time I ever went to America to see Davey Millsaps and those guys, we showed up at Davey's house around like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, so we didn't really get to meet them till the next morning. But on the night that I'd got there, they were in the cinemas watching Big Daddy, the movie. It's an Adam Sandler movie. And in that
Yeah.
movie, there's a little doll called Scuba Steve, and or Scuba Sam, and maybe his dad's called Scuba Steve. Either way, there's Adam Sandler has got a toy called Scuba Steve, and they had watched it on that night. And then the next morning, met me, who's Stephen. I had blonde hair, which the scuba diver's got like a yellow helmet on, and they just sort of they called me. They were like, "Oh, we've just seen a movie about a guy called Scuba Steve. That can be your nickname," because back then everybody who came to Millsaps training facility got a nickname. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the guy called David Needham. He's a mechanic. He's actually, I think he's Jeffrey Hurling's practice mechanic now. He worked for Dixon
Yeah.
for a load of years. He was factory Honda mechanic last year. His name is David Needham. It started off calling him David Need Turkey because he was so skinny. We told him maybe the ham's not working. You need to be David Need Turkey. And then it just stuck as Turkey. And his whole name, no one knew his name was David,
Oh
even people at the
no!
races. Yeah, people at the races, the commentators were just calling him Turkey and all sorts of stuff. And the same with me. Like
Oh.
Moose Racing printed all of my shirts for 2009 with Scuba Clarke. So people didn't even know my real name was Stephen for ages. But yeah, it was just a little nickname that got given to me by Millsaps, and it just stuck.
Okay,
Oh
one last
God.
one I've just got written down before Soph goes into the Q&A, which I'm really looking forward to as well. And I'd like to put this in there because Roger Warren spoke very similarly last week about fate and being in the right place at the right time and all that kind of thing. But one of the questions I did ask him, which is fascinating, is who is the most famous person in your contacts list on your phone? Given the fact that you've been in
In my
America and in
phone,
Australia and all, yeah.
Mhm.
Pastrana, I'd have to say. I
Oh
mean, that guy don't get much more famous than Travis, does it?
no,
No.
oh, fair comment, mate.
But well, yes, and
That's a good one to have.
yeah, well, that came from 2010. I was the Suzuki team I rode for in America was Nitro Circus Suzuki City Racing, and him being like the title sponsor. And I've actually met him a few times in the past. He used to come down to Millsaps and train, and I lived in like a little log cabin thing at Colleen's house with him for a couple of months. And that year when he was my team sponsor, invited me up to go and do some flips and stuff at his place, but my mum and dad weren't having none of it. They were like, "You are not racing AMA Supercross." And then the next week, going to his house to break your arm to then miss the next few rounds. So it never happened. I never made it up to the farm yet. But yeah, it definitely have to be Travis. Be the big contact in my phone.
Wow. Okay, fair enough, mate.
Well, I think hopefully in the next few weeks, we've got Travis lined up for a podcast at some point. So hopefully we'll get some stories about you out of him.
I was going to say, mate, we'll have to push that one, won't we?
Right, well, when you speak to him, ask him about the time we shot the alligators behind MTF. We got in big trouble for that because there's an alligator
I should
farm
imagine you
behind
did.
MTF. Well, it's
Oh my
it's an
God.
old alligator farm, so there's like a big pond full of alligators. Well, when Travis came, it would have been 2004, I think it was. Yeah, we all like walked back there through the woods, found this alligator farm, shot a couple of alligators, and then like
Like
told
you do.
everybody about it at MTF, and we got in massive trouble. With Colleen. So yeah, ask him about that. He'll think that's funny. He's probably still got it on film somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Right then. I think we'll move on to the Q&As then, shall we, from here?
Oh, been
We've had
looking forward to this the whole time.
we've had quite a mix of questions coming for you this week. We'll start off with the nice one, shall we? A lovely one from Roger Warren. He's actually got in touch
Yeah.
about you after he found out you was on the podcast. He said, so here's a question for Clarke. After winning the EMX championship, did you get any offers to move into GPs? And do you feel that you have not had the opportunity to prove yourself at a top level?
I didn't get any offers. Actually, when I signed up for that championship, the deal was when you win the EMX 250 championship, you're supposed to get a free entry for the GPs for the following year.
Mhm.
Hang on. And I won the championship, and I didn't even get a free pass for any of the rounds for the following year, which was quite annoying,
Wow.
really.
No.
I know. I know. I didn't get any offers from any teams, and I think a lot of that was to do with I was too old to race MX2, so it would have
Mhm.
had to have been a 450 deal, and I'm not sure winning the EMX 250 wasn't really something that 450 teams were looking at. I don't think, but it wouldn't have been my first time. I raced a full season of outdoors in America on a 450 when I was 20, so. I'm not
Yeah.
partial to a 450. I've been on it plenty of times. But no, to answer your question abruptly, I didn't get any deals, and I didn't get my free ride for the next year.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's not
I
good, is
know,
it?
I know, I know. No, hence why I try not to do many other GPs at the moment when I've got to pay for it myself. They don't help us
Yeah,
out
this
at
is
all.
true. There we go. So moving on to next question from Charlie Gibson on Instagram. Best advice for an amateur that wants to be a professional?
Keep at it. Just keep plugging away. It's not as scary and daunting as you think racing in the MX2 class. Yeah, the front runners are really fast, but especially nowadays, the skill level drops off pretty quick. And I don't know what level Charlie Gibson is, but my biggest piece of advice to you is don't be scared of us. Just you might be faster than all of us. You just might not be confident enough. So you'll never know where you're gonna finish until you race it. So just keep at it, keep doing your practicing, do your training, and do as much as you think you need to do. And just show up, man. We're not that scary. We're not just gonna take you out off the track just because you're new to it. Just come and mix it up with us and see how you get on.
That's pretty good advice, to be
Good
fair. I'm
advice.
not going to
Good
lie.
advice. Yeah, definitely.
So next question. I think you'll know who this guy is that sent this in.
I'm laughing already. I'm sorry, mate. It's only because I can see it.
This
Oh, great.
is a question from Josh Spinks,
Yeah.
and he says, Tommy or Jake for the championship?
Oh. Oh, you meanie.
Oh, it is.
Um. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I saw them both training in Spain. I know Jake puts in a lot of work. I know Tommy's not shy to put his laps in. It depends how many rounds we've got. Jake's normally right up there at the front for the first 3 quarters of the season. Um, have I got to answer that? I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can I pick Sean? Can I pick Sean just so I don't get one of them mad at me?
Yeah, we'll take that. That's
Uh,
fine.
Can I? I'll just jump in there then, mate. It might make it a little bit easier then. For me, Tommy's already been British
yeah,
Championship. He's British champion, done all that. Jake, in a very similar position to you, not long back, obviously when he broke his leg, was on the cusp of winning the championship, and I solely love Jake to win the championship just because I think he's due one, and he's a lovely guy, and Tommy's been there and done that. So that's my perspective of it. If that makes it, I know you're on the team, but that's
yeah.
my take
But
on
it's
it.
more. It's more so. Dave wouldn't care which answer I say because as long as one of them wins, he's going to be happy. It's just
Yeah,
more. I don't know. I don't know. I can't pick between them, man. I know Tommy is a phenomenal rider and he's got so much skill, but Jake, there's just something with Jake. He's so determined, and he went through that horrible leg injury, and it's been bothering him for 2 years. But the man goes running nearly every day on that gimpy ankle of his. He goes running for miles and miles and miles, and that is determination for you. And he does a lot of riding, a lot of training, and he's not slow on a bike in general. But again, Tommy's Tommy. He's one of the best riders to come out of England since Dave Thorpe, really, and Jamie Dobb, people like that. And you can't bet against Tommy, because if Tommy shows up with his race head on and he wants to win, he's going to be near that front battling for wins. So it's not so much I couldn't. It's not. I didn't want to upset anybody or the team or anything. I wouldn't be able to pick, and I'm just going to let them battle it out and see what happens, and just sit back and try and keep everything calm in the tent. If they come in after taking each other out, I'm going to be there, the first one to tell them they're both stupid, and just try and keep the peace.
So, Spinksy, if you end up listening to this,
Yeah,
you have
very
not managed to stir the pot at all. So,
no, very diplomatic answer there from Steve, to be fair. But I think Hart says Jake and Head probably Tommy. But is that a
No
fair way
comment.
to sum that up?
no comment, no
I don't
comment.
know. All I can say is, Josh Spinks, if you are listening, get rid of those trials videos, mate. They're doing my head in. I don't know if you guys have seen those. His trials
to be fair,
episode.
Yeah, I have,
yeah,
yeah.
Spinksy would be a
That's
good
too.
lad to have on this podcast. To be fair, if we can make
Oh,
that
it'd be
happen,
great. He's
yeah. And
funny.
then
He's a funny guy.
yeah,
I've rode with him a load of times, and just make sure he's wearing that spandex and it's a live feed, because that is a sight for
Yeah.
sore eyes, isn't it?
We'll have to just get him dressed up as Carol Baskin, I think, for the next couple of weeks.
yeah. And then perhaps you can put a question into him, then make him squirm a bit, perhaps.
Yeah, I think I've got a
That'd be
few in
cool.
mind. Right, next question.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So, Pat Stout on IG. What would you do differently after 85 world champs and Loretta titles?
What would I do differently?
Yeah.
Tried not to hurt my knee. I reckon that was like a big turning point for me. I tore the ligaments in my knee, my ACL, MCL, PCL 2 weeks before my first Supercross ever.
Hmm.
Didn't do no training or anything all the way through the season, and just sort of rode it out, being a race weekend warrior. If I could change, if I had to change something that I was in control of, I would have probably not taken that Suzuki deal to turn pro in America. The junior 85 World Championship was brilliant. I won that. I got a good deal with PAR Honda, KRM Honda. 2006.
Hmm.
It was my first year on a 250. My first year in British Championship and all that. And I didn't win anything, but I learnt a lot, and I was runner up in the under 21 Championship. Not many points behind the lead when Jim Morrow won that. It was a good year, and I went to America. I did a couple of years. I won Loretta's. That was 07. That was the following year again.
Hmm.
And then I took a deal with this guy, Suzuki team in America, that promised me the world, and just sort of took me to the races with the mediocre bike, if you know what I mean. It
Hmm.
touches base on what I said earlier. We had a big semi with all the bikes in there. The bikes had new graphics, new plastics, new tyres on every weekend, but the suspension guy was a part-time suspension mechanic, full-time DJ, which should have been the other way around. You know what I mean? He should have been a full-time suspension guy that did a bit of DJing. My motors were promised to be factory Suzuki motors, and they were just some guy in Mississippi uh, tuning them himself. And my team manager was actually, towards the end of the season, caught drawing the Chinese symbol on the side himself. So if
No
I could,
way.
yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. Me and my teammate thought we were so special. We got these heads come with a little Chinese symbol on it. We were told meant Matthew and Stephen, but by the end of the year, one of the mechanics caught the team manager, drawing it on himself. Which, again, it didn't hurt my feelings, because my bike was there and I had a truck, and the paycheck was coming in. But I just think my career would have gone a bit further, and I could have maybe done a little bit better those first few years, if I was privateer, with my parents backing me,
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
they're obviously willing to put in the money to get the good equipment, and we'll go in a sprinter van because that's obviously the bigger benefit is the equipment as opposed to the big truck and the big posters and the big signing and everything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really, it was all about looking good on that team and not actually putting the full potential into the engine and the suspension, like potentially
Yeah,
like you wanted.
yeah, yeah. So, like I said, to answer this question, would have definitely been try and do my first year as pro as a privateer. That would be like one of the biggest things I changed.
There we go. Pat's actually sent in another question. I think he's done about 4 or 5, but I've had to narrow it down to 2. He said, "Who at schoolboy level should have gone far?"
In my era,
Yeah.
Scott Elderfield. Scott Elderfield, definitely. That kid had so much talent, but one thing or another faded out of the scene
Mhm.
after a brief stint near the front-ish, I would say, at the British Championship level. I know he rode for like Par Honda, and I believe it was LPE Kawasaki back then. Um, and like I said, yeah, so much talent and so much potential, but just faded out. And if you're listening, Scott Elderfield, it's never too late, mate. Lose some weight and get yourself on a motocross bike.
And that goes to the philosophy that you really believe in, whereas mate, natural talent, that lad and you, uh,
Yeah,
unreal on a motocross bike. I mean, that lad, I've seen him race, and it was, and even now, so many people out there disappointed that he packed up when he did. And even in America, they were scared at some of the things he could do on a motocross bike as well. I know, I've heard stories. Um,
yeah.
but such a shame that he just lost his way a little bit. That was all.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was to do with it. I mean, it's nothing against his dad because his dad was actually a really nice man, but he put so much pressure on Scott at a very young age that I think it just burnt Scott out. And I just think he was just fed up of having to impress people all the time. Do you know what I mean? So even when his
Yeah,
dad stepped away, it was then he was on a team that were expecting him to do well because of how good he was on the bike. Whereas if he wouldn't have, like my parents have been so relaxed and chill with me, they tell me do what you got to do and go where you want to go and just do it how you want to do it, sort of thing. And the results will come. If they come, they come. If they don't, you know what I mean. As long as you're not really injured, we're happy. So
Mhm.
I think if he would have had the reins loosened a little bit on him, he would have worked wonders and he would have been doing really well. And I think he'd have still been racing, but he hasn't, he didn't, and he's not. So yeah, Scott Elderfield's my answer for that one.
There we go. So I think that rounds up our Q&A section of the podcast. Darren, do you want to add any more in?
all I want. I've just got one random question again, and we do this.
You
Have
do
you
that, you
ever?
mean?
No, I know. Have you ever tried any other forms of motorsport, mate? Just out of interest, just be only because I wanted to throw that one in there because most motocross riders or racers, whatever, have got a passion for anything, whether it be two wheel, four wheel. Have you ever tried anything else? In fact, just thought, I could give this a bit of a go.
As far as motorsports go, the only other thing I've tried was supermoto. That was last year. I think it was about August or September time. I went with my pal. We went over to what I thought was going to be a supermoto track with jumps and bit of dirt and some tarmac, and we got there and it was just a go kart track. So I mean, it was so boring. There was no ruts, there was no bumps, there was no jumps or anything. So it's not for me. But yeah, that's the only other really form of motorsports I've ever tried. Um, yeah, I would like to have a go at some road racing. I think that would be pretty cool. How Graham Owen switched over and started doing BSB and stuff like that. I've watched a few of the BSB events. I was
Yeah,
actually at Phillip Island in Australia doing a Supercross race when they had a race on there. I think it was Moto 2 class or something like that. But yeah, our Supercross track was just off to the side of their GP track, and watching those boys and and hearing those bikes and just seeing them rip around, it just looks pretty cool. I'd like to have a go at that. So if there's any road race teams listening, sign me up for the future.
To be fair, mate, I'd sign you up just on your dogged determination. In all fairness, I mean, quite a lot of the lads, like you say, making the transition. John Michelle Bale, for instance, took to the gravel and asphalt really, really well. It just seems to be, some people have got their pass on, but I suppose you have to be smoother with your riding. But I've seen you on a motocross, mate, and to be fair, it's full chat or nothing wherever you are. So I'm not sure if you'd be throwing it at the scenery quite a bit, if I'm honest.
No. See, you contradict yourself there. You called me a blue groove rider earlier, and you can't get any closer to a road racing track than blue groove.
No, I did. Yeah.
So
No.
throttle and clutch
Yeah,
control on
fair
me. Yeah,
comment,
I
mate.
do
Comment,
go flat chat. I go flat chat all the time, but I do pride myself on having a lot of throttle and clutch control. I think that's a key part of motocross, and I think it would transition quite well over into road racing. I'd be a bit more worried about going 200 miles an hour, I think, than throwing it down the track. I'd probably be going a bit too slow and cut the corner because I'm not going quick enough.
Oh, I know you, mate. I think you probably have to nail it until you got 200 mile an hour down that straight. I don't think you could. And that just, off that first opening question that we had from the amateur guy going there, and that's another thing that we can pick off and some of the things that we've got off the riders where, go out and practice blue groove. You get that throttle control and you can master any permutation that gets thrown at you whatsoever, because that is the hardest control. It's like glass. So, so off the back of that first for Charlie, that might well be the case.
Yeah, get some hard practice in him.
There we go. So I think that rounds up episode 5 of the Live Motocross podcast. Clarke, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's given you a bit of maybe something to do while we're in lockdown rather than watching Netflix.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for having me, guys. And if you want to get me back on in the future, don't be shy to ask. I love this kind of thing. And as you both know, and as anyone who's listened to this last hour and 20 minutes can tell you, I don't shut up. And if you're bored and you want someone to talk to, ring me up. I'm all up for it. I think it's brilliant what you guys are doing. And I think more of it needs to happen with, let's get the take on everybody in the top 10. You know what I mean? Let's see what everybody else all the way down to, someone mid-pack. Let's hear what their thoughts are. That'd be pretty cool. Just someone that's maybe never won a race.
Yeah.
See what their goals are and the way they go about things, and maybe they might learn a few things just from listening to this, from what I say and from what Sean said in the past and stuff like that. I think it'd be good. But yeah, thank you again for having me. It's been wicked.
Thanks for your time, mate. And I just want to say personally, I hope we do go racing in 2020. I think we're all looking forward to it. We will make a big thing of it. I know we will. The fans will get behind us. But just wanted to wish you all the very best for this year, mate. We're behind you. We can see the determination. We can see what it means to you. And just all the very best, mate, when we do go racing. That's all I can say. That's from the heart.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And hopefully we can do some interviews throughout the season and we'll be celebrating at the end of it.
Let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so.
So we've got a little competition running with Wolf Sport at the moment over on Live Motocross. So to celebrate the success of the new Forte Nero kit, I think I'm pronouncing that right, there's a competition to be in with a chance of winning a set. So head over to the Live Facebook page where you can see the competition on there. You also have to like and share the post, follow Wolf Sport and tag 2 mates in the comments. So the competition will finish on the 15th of May and they will send you a DM to see if you've won. Good luck. There we go. So that rounds up episode 5. Make sure you head over to Acast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to us so you don't miss an episode. But in the meantime, tune in next week where we'll be hitting you with episode 6 and a very special guest.